Good morning, dear colleagues. Greetings. It's a great pleasure for me to greet the High Representative of the EU, Kaja Kallas. This is her third visit of hers to Ukraine from the time of this new appointment. Thank you for the regular dialogue. I'm grateful for personal leadership of Kaja's in mobilization of support for Ukraine among the EU nations. And also, I would like to mention the special acknowledgement, the 2 million pieces of artillery munition. I informed her in the course of our conversation on the battlefield, the situation, escalation of the Russian terror against the civilian infrastructure and the energy system of Ukraine, especially the cynical attacks, they look cynical on the eve of the wintering season, and then would like to degrade our morale and the spirit of our population, targeting the infrastructure of the energy sector. We fully realize that we are in concert with our partners in our understanding of the future needs for protection of our infrastructure, energy infrastructure, to overcome this challenge. Our energy sector operators are the real heroes. They overcome the impact of the Russian strikes, and we discussed the support of our European partners in that realm. I shared the list of needs before the winter season and the deadlines for supplies of such equipment. This is a priority for Ukraine now, and we are grateful to the EU for the comprehensive support. And we also discussed the reinforcement of the defense capacity of Ukraine, safe instrument in particular for implementation of joint projects with Ukraine. And we also discussed other initiatives, Pearl for in particular. That initiative has already proved its efficiency. Against the backdrop of the numerous incidents with the Russian drones in the airspace of the EU countries, NATO nations, we can clearly see the needs of the EU in the Ukrainian experience and our battlefield lessons learned, and we are prepared to share the lessons learned with our partners in the EU. Russia is trying to intimidate us and make us weaker. We have to give them the opposite reaction, to be more consolidated, to increase our togetherness with integrated system of European defense and protection. Unfortunately, the Russian threat is a reality for modern Europe and present-day Europe, and this is an existential threat that we should treat seriously for the peace in the European continent. We put additional pressure in terms of sanctions, as Volodymyr Zelensky mentioned. The pause on some sanction decisions is too much delayed. We need the 19th package to be accepted as soon as possible, and it needs to be as strong as possible. We expect sanctions against the shadow fleet, the financial industrial sector of Russia, and personal sanctions against the people involved in kidnapping of the Ukrainian children and Russian propaganda mongering. And we have to reach fair peace, and this nears it because it undermines the facilities and the resources that fuel the war. In this context, we would like to mention some progress in possible utilization of the frozen assets of Russia's, in particular the financial facility of the EU, or the reparation loan, as it is called, to use the frozen assets of the Russian Federation. We also decided our further steps in our negotiation process for EU accession. Ukraine has already concluded the screening of the legislation a fortnight ago, and the positive dynamics is very important to maintain the momentum and cover the key initiatives. We're expecting the positive decision of the EU on Cluster 1. We have numerous situations witnessed partners, the EU, in difficult situations, finding the way out and keeping their togetherness in strategic issues. It's the time, high time for strong leadership. I'm very grateful to Kaya Kallas for support of our initiatives in the international venues and European venues in our global dialogue with the partners. It is very important, and we agreed to coordinate our efforts on that track for the future. Special acknowledgement goes to Kaya Kallas for support of our track of the creation of special tribunal. The special tribunal, Kaya supported this initiative in May at the meeting of ministers of foreign affairs in Lviv, and there the political launch had been accomplished for the special tribunal to be established, the clear signal of inevitability of liability for the aggressor and all the criminals involved in the aggression of the Russian terrorists, and we are now discussing the practical steps. I'm aware of those steps, and I'm very grateful for such developments. We also discussed our future steps towards the EU Council next meeting, ministers of foreign affairs on the 20th of October, for the agenda to be finalized, and I'm planning on participation in the meeting of the ministers of foreign affairs on the 20th of October. The considerable part of the agenda is dedicated to Ukraine. Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. No, actually, good day, everybody. Mr. Sybiha, dear Andriy, it's good to be back in Kyiv, and thank you for the warm welcome. Ukraine has our full backing. This year, the European Union is providing record levels of military support to Ukraine. EU sanctions have already deprived Russia of hundreds of billions of euros to fund its war. Will soon adopt new measures targeting Russia's energy, finance and trade revenues. Russia's war economy is already weak. We will make it weaker. Inflation exceeds 20%, cash reserves are depleted, and growth is close to zero. Maybe time was once on Russia's side, but it's shifting to Ukraine now. Every euro we take from Russia is a euro it cannot spend on the war. On the battlefield, as President Trump said, Ukraine can turn the tables on Russia. Russia's summer offensive has failed. Its minimal territorial gains come with a huge Russian casualties and cost. This is down to the bravery of Ukrainian soldiers and European and NATO support. Russia now seeks to offset battlefield setbacks with terror attacks against civilian and Ukrainian energy infrastructure. The European Union has already mobilized 800 million euros to support Ukraine this winter. We are working on an extra 100 million euros for generators, shelters, and cold weather gear. As Minister Sybiha and I discussed, Russia has dashed any hope of quick peace, so we are planning for the long haul. The European Union is scaling up Ukraine's combat power with 2 billion euros for drones. We will also expand the mandate of the EU civilian mission in Ukraine to cover cyber defense and veteran support. As Russian war drags on, we must make use of every avenue to financially support Ukraine. EU leaders are discussing a reparations loan underpinned by Russian frozen assets. We need to press on with this proposal. Turning frozen Russian funds into frontline support for Ukraine is the right thing to do. Moscow should bear the cost of this war, not European taxpayers. Then on accountability, like Minister Sybiha already mentioned, I can also today announce the first 10 million euros to set up the special tribunal for the crime against aggression. Like Mr. Sibiha mentioned, in May we had a meeting with the foreign ministers in Lviv to really get this tribunal started. Russia's leaders are responsible for this war, and there wouldn't be any war crimes if there wouldn't be the crime of aggression, so that there wouldn't be any atrocities either. So nobody should be left unpunished for crimes committed. The forced deportation of children and rape are among the darkest chapters of Russia's war. Today we are giving another 6 million euros to support the care of children that are deported by Russia and survivors of sexual violence. This can help ensure these crimes receive the care, the victims of these crimes receive the care they need. And finally, also on European defense, Europe faces an extraordinary surge of hybrid attacks. Every time Russian drone or plane violates our airspace, there is a risk of escalation, unintended or not. Russia is gambling with war, and we are moving beyond the realms of hypothetical conflict. To keep war at bay, we must translate economic power of Europe into military deterrence. This week, President von der Leyen and I will present a roadmap for European defense. This will define the capability, objectives and milestones for key areas like anti-drone systems. It is clear that we need to toughen our defense against Russia, not to provoke war, but the opposite, to prevent war. This will be the playbook for how to do that, and also it has to be in full alignment with NATO. So, Minister Sibiha, dear Andriy, thank you again for hosting us. Thank you for putting a really strong program together for us here. The Ukrainian people are inspiration for us all, and you can always count on our support. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellencies. We'll take a few brief questions, starting with New York Times. Mari?
Thank you for taking our questions. Gina Smilik, New York Times. You know, the European Union has made it clear that it plans to learn from Ukraine when it comes to the drone wall portion of the defense roadmap. I wonder if you could talk a little bit, HRVP Kallas, about sort of what that actually practically looks like. You know, how does that play out? How do you learn from Ukraine, and what are the practical steps to making that reality?
Thank you for that question. I mean, we have a lot to learn from Ukraine. This is true, and we got a very good presentation also from Ukrainians regarding the drone defense and how these anti-drone systems should really look like. I mean, what kind of elements we need. We need first sensors, we need anti-drone systems, we need also the interceptors. So it is clear what we need. In order to put it up, we also need funding. That's very clear, and I think we can also cooperate very much with the Ukraine defense industry because what the Ukraine defense industry has found is really to bring the procurement times as well as the procurement costs down. So together we can make it happen, and considering the technology, then it shouldn't take years, but it's actually quite much more easy to put up, and I think what the lessons from Ukraine are actually really to fight the drones that are coming with lesser means than missiles. So clearly this understanding is there, what we need to do. Now we have to find the funding and really move on with the project.
With your permission, I would like to add to this comments. I fully agree now with Kaja Kallas' comment on this one, but what is important is all the systems, any systems of protection of the airspace of the EU or NATO, for that matter. It is very important to understand the implication. The Ukrainian system for protection should become an integral part of the European and NATO system of defense. Because I keep saying that our security is inseparable from the EU security, and the EU are needing our battlefield experience, lessons learned to oppose the drone attacks, the proxy attacks in the EU dimensions. And the EU is not really at war with Russia, but Russia is at war, proxy war with the Europeans and Europe, and we have to be ready for that. Ukraine is advancing in specific technologies, and we are quickly learning how to oppose the avalanche of the Russian drones attacking our infrastructure, energy or otherwise, 500 to 700 in one attack in combination with different types of rockets and missiles. So it is very important to maintain our capacity to produce drones inside the country, and also in cooperation with our closest partners and allies. This is about our collective security, our future security infrastructure. And we are ready to share this experience and become a contributor of knowledge and experience, expertise for the sake of our closest friends and allies, Interfax.
My first question to the High Representative. As you already mentioned, the reparation loan, we know that G7 finance ministers going to meet this week. Can we expect some impossible decisions on this question, and how long it could take on the reparation loans? І друге запитання до Андрія Івановича. Президент України неодноразово закликав до розширення програми Pearl. Чи є сигнали від партнерів, що ще більше країн готові долучитися, чи поки що немає оновлень щодо цієї програми? Дякую.
On the reparations loan, the work is ongoing. Of course, we want to move fast in this, but we have 27 member states with different worries. So the work is ongoing. There are, I think, two tracks. One is to set it up really that it would be legally sound, and also the risks are covered when it comes to certain member states that have bigger risks than others. And the other track is what this reparations loan could be used and when and how. So I can't give you a concrete date as we are very intensively working on this, but I'm happy that we see some movement on the overall discussions when it comes to the reparations and frozen assets. Thank you.
Pearl is a very important program for us. And the President Zelensky, is in contact continuously with the leaders of our main allies, European transatlantic, for the scalability of this program, in continuous touch with Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO. $2 billion have been allocated, and the first package is being implemented already. So we have 6 countries which have contributed specifically, provided the funds for continuation of this program, and we can say presently that there are other 7 countries prepared to make the contributions, act as contributors for the program. For the military, for the Ministry of Defense, there will be this meeting of the EU Defense Ministers meeting in Ramstein, And these are good venues to discuss such matters and expect practical results. Last issue last question.
Ukraine from Ivan Kosakin. I have two questions to Madam High Representative. You mentioned that the EU will announce a defense roadmap, but I want to ask you how personally you view the new architecture of security in Europe, given that Russia persists in its hybrid war against you and it persists in attack on civilian infrastructure. And also, what is your view, what does the EU think about the possible Tomahawk missile delivery to Ukraine? Does the EU support it, welcomes it, and will assist in delivery?
Thank you. Yes, so the defense roadmap would have very concrete milestones and in key capability areas that how we move to the targets to be really ready by 2030. This is because we see Russia hasn't changed its goals really regarding rewriting the security architecture of Europe. You correctly mentioned the intensified hybrid attacks that they have against also European countries, whether it's a violation of airspace or it is cyber attacks or attacks or sabotage of another sort. And that means that they are really playing with fire and they're really escalating here. So that's why we need to be stronger and we need to be ready when it comes to our own defense. And to your third question, we welcome all the tools that make Ukraine stronger and Russia weaker. Thank you.
Let me add that there shouldn't be any taboo in supplies of weapons to Ukraine. Our response to the Russian attacks should mirror their efforts and be long range.
Thank you, Excellencies, and thank you, media. At this we conclude. Thank you.